Hello and welcome to Chapter 22, the Urinary System and Excretion. When we look at the unit today, we are going to look at the kidneys. The kidneys are said to be a filtering system of the blood. Kidneys are actually horrible filters, but they're very good reabsorbers, so we'll look at that. The confusing thing about the kidney is that there are two systems that run parallel. Pay attention to the nephron or the kidney system and the blood supply, and they go back and forth. Substances go back and forth, so you need to pay attention to what you're moving into. So then we're going to look at the function of it in terms of urine formation. Briefly look at the rest of the system. Talk a little bit more about urine because one of the main tests is a urine test. You can tell a lot by things that are not in your urine and things that show up in your urine. Then very briefly talk about disorders and good. Now when it comes to excretion, your body needs to get rid of waste. And there's 4 ways it gets rid of waste. One, let's start at the bottom, your skin. If you are eating garbage and if you're not drinking enough water, it comes out in your skin. You know that I ate crap weekend zit that you get around your face. I call it my chocolate zits or my volcanoes, those underground ones. Things will come out in your skin if your body's needing to get rid of waste. In terms of respiratory is breathing. You want to breathe out your carbon dioxide. And also breathing out your carbon dioxide helps regulate your acid-base balance of your blood. Then digestive, please realize urinary system was part of your body once, and your blood is being filtered and the waste being taken out, as opposed to digestive. The waste in your digestive system never was part of your body. It just goes through untouched, and the stuff you don't absorb gets pooped out. So urinary was part of your body because it was fluid in your blood or substances in your blood that then get absorbed out, and the excess goes into your urine. So realize there is a difference there. Also, your pee is, it's kind of the overflow of your blood. It is usually very sterile. That's why they say if you got a jellyfish sting, you pee on it. Plus, that has to do with the ammonia in your pee. Where your digestive tract, not sterile. That's one thing. When we look at the the organs of the urinary system, it is paired. Please make sure you can recognize your kidneys. They're also called retroperitoneal, which when we look at the abdominal cavity, there is a layer. The peritoneal is the membrane that goes over the digestive organs. These are retroperitoneal, which means they're kind of hidden in the back towards the back wall, and there's a membrane over them. They're called, and because they're close to the outside of the body, they're kind of half tucked under the ribs. So here we have your diaphragm. So the diaphragm is the muscle on the bottom of your ribs. So they're kind of half tucked under your ribs. And they are kidney shaped. There's a pair of them. And they have an excellent blood supply, hence the renal artery and the renal vein that comes from them. The adrenal gland is on top of the kidneys, but the adrenal gland has to do with adrenaline or epinephrine, not the kidney function itself. Okay, and the blood supply and the blood pressure is very important in the functioning of the kidney, so it will come right off of the descending aorta, and then it goes back on the inferior vena cava. When you look at the kidneys have kidneys are one of the first organs transplanted because they are pretty much isolated on their own. Sorry, I muffled a sneeze there. The kidneys are isolated on their own. They're back. They're encapsulated. You have 2 vessels going in, blood vessels going in, and then you have this ureter coming out. When it comes to kidney transplant, they just put the extra one in. They do not take out a damaged kidney. You have your ureter. So the urine is made in the kidney. Your blood is filtered. It's made in the kidney. Your urine is made in the kidney. It passes in the ureter and stored in the bladder, and then it comes out the urethra. Notice you have 2 ureters and 1 urethra. The ureters alphabetically come before the urethra. In the male, the urethra goes out through the penis, and it is actually a tube for both sperm and urine. In females, the urethra is separated and it comes out in the front, as opposed to, if you think of females, there's 3 holes. First one is P. Second one is the entrance into the the reproductive system, which is next chapter. Okay, with males, it is longer, and it is one tube for both sperm and urine. In females, shorter urethra, and also it is a separate tube. However, because they're so close together, quite often there's complications of bladder infections as a result of not being clean down there, or not wiping the after the number 1 and number 2. Okay. 2 ureters, 1 urethra. We'll talk about the prostate gland and the other male parts of the reproductive system in the next unit. We're mainly looking at excretory. So you've got kidneys, 2 ureters, a bladder where it's stored, and the urethra, which it comes out of. Also, blood supply, very important in the kidneys, because it is the blood that is being filtered in this situation. Okay? Good. When it comes to excretion, we're mainly going to focus on the kidneys here. The main purpose of the kidneys is to excrete, to get rid of urea. Urea is a waste product due to proteins being broken down. There's that amino group, that nitrogen group on the proteins. When they are broken down, it forms ammonia. That ammonia is very toxic to the body, so it will undergo a reaction to convert it to uric acid and urea, which is less harmful to the body. So one of the processes for the kidney is to excrete urea. The second activity in the kidney is water balance is maintained, and it is important that the body regulate a certain amount of blood volume. Anything extra goes into the urine. If your blood volume is low, the volume is taken out of your urine and put back into your blood. This part is confusing because you need to know what's coming out of where and what's going into where. Also, you cannot pump water. You move sodium, and as a result of sodium movement, water will follow, and that's done in the nephron, in the loop of Henle. Okay, the kidneys also regulate acid-base balance, and that has to do with that bicarbonate or hydrogen carbonate. Then also blood pressure is regulated, and blood pressure is regulated due to blood volume, and they're kind of related. Then there's also blood cell production regulation, and that is erythropoietin, which comes from the kidneys. Okay. When we look at the structure of the kidney, there is a capsule. There's a little bit of fat around it, and it is connected to the peritoneal and the abdominal wall. And usually the left is lower than the right, so your liver fits in. So when you look at it, you have the outside, which will be protected, the renal capsule. Then you have 2 layers inside the kidney. The general inside word means medulla, and the outside word is cortex. So you have the cortex and you have the medulla. Inside the medulla are things called renal pyramids, which look like pyramids. When we look at the nephron, which is the functional unit of the kidney, the nephron, the convoluted tubules are in the cortex, and the loop of Henle goes into the medulla, and I'll point that out when we look at it. Then there are a great many functional units, and they are collected into the calyx, and then it goes into the ureter. Please make sure you know the cortex and the medulla and the renal pyramids. Notice the good blood supply. The descending aorta supplies the blood, and then it goes from the renal vein back into the inferior vena cava and back to the heart. Blood pressure is very important in the regulation of the kidney. That's why it's important that it comes right off the aorta, so you have good blood pressure. Okay. Now, when you look at the kidney, it's kind of confusing because there's a bunch of tubules all mixed up. You need to pay attention to what's going on. First off, start with what's called the nephron. The nephron is the functional unit of the kidney. You find this ball. This is a glomerular capsule, sometimes called a Bowman's capsule. What happens there is this is where the filtrate starts. It then goes into this convoluted bent. And since this tubule is closest to the glomerulus, this is the proximal convoluted tubule right here, proximal tubule, sometimes called the PCT, proximal convoluted tubule. Then after the proximal convoluted tubule, you go into this loop. It's called the loop of Henle, sometimes called the nephron loop, depending on how you look at it. This is important when we're concentrating the water. It builds up this concentration gradient. We'll look at that later. Then, so you go from the glomerular capsule, or proximal tubule, loop of the nephron, and then you have another tubule at the end. This is the distal tubule, which will then join the collecting duct, and then many collecting ducts go together to join the calyx. So if we look here, here's the calyx. So inside each one of these renal pyramids are these nephron tubules. That is the function of the nephron. Then there is a separate blood supply that goes around it. So it comes from your arteriole, which is a small artery. Then you get this glomerulus. This glomerulus is a large capillary bed, very good surface area, very delicate capillaries. Very important. If you have blood pressure problems, you will damage these capillaries. You change the effect of these capillaries, you will change the efficiency of your glomerulus and the function because you're damaging these capillary beds. Then the blood itself will then leave the glomerulus and go into what's called the peritubule capillaries. Peri means around. So these are the capillaries that go around this nephron loop. Okay, these help collect the water and help balance the water that is occurring in the loop of Henle. Then after it comes out of here, it goes and it actually wraps around the distal or the collecting duct too. Then it goes back to the down here, then it goes back to the renal vein. Okay, keep the systems separate. You have the nephron, which is what collects the filtrate, which will then become urine, and you have your blood supply. So you're starting with your glomerulus and your peritubule capillaries, and then you've got back to your renal vein. Very delicate. Okay, now when it comes to the formation of urine, there are 3 steps: filtration, reabsorption, and secretion. And each one of these are important. On the unit plan right here, I have extra introductions onto the formation of urine formation. This goes into more detail on how the urine is formatted, especially in the loop of Henle. Little more detail than what I'll be going on to here. I will actually start this on another video because I don't have time to look at it in this video. So I'll continue on in the next one. Bye.